StockMinute.com here in the beautiful Black Hills of South Dakota. I am your stock miner, Brian Johnson, and the bulls tried to push things up a little bit today. Why? To reclaim those upper levels we talked about yesterday. And they did it. They barely, but they did manage to get themselves up a little bit. The SPX was the strongest today at just above um, 10 points. Well, I guess it finished just above 9 points, sorry, by the end of the day. So, not a substantial gain by any means, but yet, just no confirmation from the Bears. Really expected to see a break this week, one way or the other, of the more major levels. We saw a break this week of the more major levels, but it just wasn't. There was just no real strong push behind it. I was expecting maybe a little bit more volatility, one way or the other, before the end of the week. Didn't really get it. I mean, we had good volatility during the week, just not consistent, one directional volatility, which was kind of more along the lines of what I was expecting. Something stronger to the upside or downside that was going to stick by the end of the week. Now we're still kind of left in limbo. There's really no change here. So apparently we'll have to wait, I guess, until options expiration comes into play to maybe get this thing to move one way or the other. But you can see here that we were down into these lower levels here. We did push below them ever so slightly today before the bulls brought it right back up into overhead resistance, kind of stopped in through here. Now this is just kind of in limbo really for the time being. If we go to a daily, you can see we just tried to reclaim these 50-day moving averages, and the bulls did it. They were able to get this thing back up and above these levels and keep it there. The internals were actually pretty good most of the day, decent. They weren't really defining or well defining one way or the other, but for the bulls it really wasn't a bad move overall for the day. So you can see this consolidation with the drop below. We did, like I said, dip below here, but the bears having their opportunity here. The bulls weren't selling. Bulls just aren't getting spooked down here whatsoever. Brought it right back up above the 12,000 mark, and here's where we sit now, once again, above the 50-day moving average. Now, we saw the NASDAQ pound and pound and pound and pound its way against this 50-day. Maybe we see a little bit of that from the other indices, but overall, it just is what it is, and that is still choppy, still sideways, still hasn't really changed much of that momentum, even though we had a pretty violent day to the downside yesterday. NASDAQ 60 reclaiming some of this area up in here. If you take a look, obviously not even getting back to the 50. That might have to wait. If we see any kind of a push up next week in the markets, this is absolutely where the NASDAQ's going to go. I would really watch it up into this 50 here, especially now that we've broken it. But it held this lower support area that we talked about right here at or around this 2280-ish mark. So are you looking for a push back up into here? I don't know. We'll see if this is where the markets decide to take it. But overall, what we're seeing is the sideways chop. Look, we've been stuck between these levels now for quite a while. Yeah, we can start to play with head and shoulder patterns, and you bet we can have all kinds of fun with that. Fun with patterns. But yeah, I don't know. Until we see until we see the Bears decide to really come in here, I'm not convinced on any kind of pattern, bullish or bearish right now. We're still stuck in this consolidation. From the weekly too, look, we never came down. The Bears did push it down a little bit to start the day, but never tried to even approach this 20-week moving average. So here we sit, waiting to see if this level finally gets retested. But as it is right now, we didn't have a lot of participation this week in this move. What we did not see was a push back to the upside. Bears drag it down and bulls drag it up. We saw that for 2 weeks in a row, but we did not see that this week. So can we glean anything from that? Yeah, I mean, sure. The bulls weren't strong enough this week to pull it all the way back up again. However, the bears weren't strong enough to drag it down. I can make a case both ways. It's just overall still kind of neutral. SPX then doing what it does and bouncing back up, making about a 9-point gain, but as it hit this overhead resistance level, could not hold by the end of the day. If we just flip to a daily here, you can see where it stopped, right back at this funky little green line I've got drawn in here. So you can see it holding right here and back above the 50-day. I told you the bulls would probably want to are going to want to try to reclaim this area. They did, and they managed to close it above that by the end of the day. It was certainly nothing though overall, as you can see. That's majorly convincing here. We're just coming back to retest some of the support that we broke, and now that it's held, still a little bit, I guess, if you want to give a little bit of credit to the Bears on this one. Yeah, It's just that this grind down has been very, very slow. It's been very hard, been very difficult to take any kind of entries on it because you don't know what to expect from one day to the next if you're trying to hold this thing for any length of time. The VIX did stay above 20. Now we saw the move down today with the move up in the markets, and so it was a pretty, it was certainly confirming the move by the markets. But overall, as I've said before, look, it stayed above 19-ish, 20-ish mark, and by the end of the week, we've got 3 closes now. Granted, every time it seems to want to spike, it gets pushed back down, and it's in the same boat as the indices. We're waiting for it to now pursue and push past. It's a lot of P's. The 50-day moving average. So you can see it holding well up here from a VIX standpoint and trapped between the 50 and the 20 overall. But what I like still is the fact that we're seeing this VIX hold tight to the 1920-ish level. That's where I want to see. This does give me a little bit more, teeny bit more sway towards the bear side because of the fear not pouring out of the markets as we've seen time and time and time again all the way down. Now we're starting to hold into these higher levels here, which tells me that, you know what, there is still a little bit of fear left in the market, regardless of the market moving up or whatever. There's still a little bit of caution, still some concern from the options traders out there on where the next move is headed. Apple 60 was up $5 today. You can see this thing just does not want to give up coming up and into these higher areas. If we just flip to the daily, you'll see that we're still trapped between the 50 and the 20. The 50 has been beautiful support back here, giving really, really nice opportunities to either A, take profits on shorts, or B, look to take long entries on a more speculative basis, but it's worked out very, very well as it ran itself right back up close to the 20-day moving average today. So a very nice trade for those watching that. But overall, still trapped between these. We'll watch these coming into next week to see which one is broken, and that I'm sure will be more or less my entries coming into next week. From a weekly standpoint, we're also holding, yet again, this upper trend line. So we've had pushes above it, back below it, pushes above it, back below it, pushes above it, back below it. It's been lather, rinse, repeat on Apple for the last 3 weeks. So I love this overhead line. It's doing a great job. Apple's, as long as it can stay kind of consolidating itself sideways, does have a very good chance to push up and past this, but it can't work against the markets. So it's still stuck in its consolidation mode as well, waiting for a bigger break. FAS, get rid of these blue lines, but you can basically see that we came back and we're sitting at or around this area. I'll just disregard these blue lines for the time being. They're coming off this weekend. We'll look at some new ideas that I think are forming up here on this side of the charts. But you can see where we held the 30. Did not last long below there before coming back up, and never really getting much of entry one way or the other for long or short. We didn't get back above this 50. We did push below the 30, but the push this morning came on a gap down. So very difficult to trade that if you were looking for a short below the 30 mark. And we never broke 29. So really no real trading to be done in FAS, and the same in FAZ today. As you can see, the overall, take the blue lines away, and what are you left with? Just a bunch of sideways choppy action. This thing looks like a heart monitor right now. Daily is the same thing. We did get above the 50, but it happened not on a run up and through it, but a gap up and above it. I'm always very cautious on those type of trades. There are opportunities, but I would not have wanted to do anything with this after about the first hour or two of the day. So still back within this choppy trading range. Back above the 50 is a more speculative long. I still like it back above 42. What was the high today? 41.95. See, there's a reason these lines go where they go. They do actually work in the bigger scheme of things. So this sideways consolidation continues going all the way back to the end of February. So you can see for almost 3 weeks here, it's just been straight choppy sideways action in the banks. It's both bearish and bullish. I guess if you want my gut feeling on this kind of sideways movement, where I'm seeing it, I'm actually maybe a tad bit more bullish on this move right here. I really do like this thing up and above that 42, and ultimately above this blue line here. So those of you that have been waiting to get long FAS, you might get your chance here pretty soon. Okay, that'll do it for this week's video. I did send out another intraday update for those of you that have been following along. I won't read it to you. Really wasn't much to say, except to watch the levels we had been watching. I gave them some hints and tips on the individual stocks that we traded this week, which I'll share some of those with you this weekend. Another good week when it came to that. We had some very very nice moves, um, and I think. Well, I'll just tell you because I know one of them that's coming off the chart is Google. We played Google short this week, so we did very well on that trade. And I'll bring that up again this weekend in the video. And until Sunday, we'll see you guys, I guess, here in a couple of days. Enjoy your weekend. We're supposed to have some pretty decent weather. I'm a big slow pitch softball guy. So for me, it looks like I might try to get the team together, go out and take a little batting practice this weekend. I'm hardcore when it comes to that kind of stuff. See if we can't get some cuts in here before the season starts. We've had some beautiful days, so the snow has dried up very, very quickly out here. And can't wait for spring. I'm getting cabin fever. Hard time right now. All right, we'll see you guys in a couple of days. Enjoy your weekend. Bye.